Hey everyone, welcome to the 10 steps to make your 2020 vision your reality. This is a webinar specifically for Mary Kay consultants, and it's all about helping you achieve the goals that you have for this calendar year and for the second half of your seminar year. My purpose for this webinar is simple. We're going to go on for 45 minutes, maybe an hour or so, and I want to teach you how to make the goals that you have, not just in Mary Kay, but also in your life, come true. But you've got to focus on things a little bit differently than the way you probably focused on your goals from the past that you may not have missed. Or if you're a leader, you got to teach this to your team. So what I'd love for you to do, if you have any ahas, to share them in the Pink Caddy Coaching Facebook group. If you're not in that group, you can go right there on the screen. It has the URL and you can join that group. If you're live on the webinar, you can write questions in the chat box, or wherever this replay is, you can write questions on that page. And what I want you to do is take notes of inspiration. Don't just try to grab all the information that's on the slides, because you can go back and watch the replay and get the information. But the inspired thoughts that you have can't be captured in my slides. So I really want you to take your inspired notes, jot those down, and stick around at the end. I'm going to let you know how to go a little bit deeper with us, how to get my support and my team support in your personal goal-getting journey later on this year. So let's start with what's possible. It's absolutely possible to achieve your goals in Mary Kay without sacrificing anything. Build a business that gives you happiness, joy, and fulfills your values, gives you an experience of life that you want, because that's really what your business is all about. It's about helping you experience life the way you want to experience it. And what a lot of people do is they build a business, whether it's in Mary Kay or outside of Mary Kay, that sacrifices their enjoyment of life. And that's not what a business is designed to do. And it's definitely not what Mary Kay is designed to do. But in order to do that, you have to understand how your brain works. You have to have the right game plan that's created for your success. You can't just follow some assembly line game plan that somebody else used to succeed and expect it to fit you exactly. Of course, there's nothing wrong with grabbing the ingredients from other people's recipes and taking some of the things that work for other people and really focusing on the foundations that are important for success. But you have to have your own personal recipe, especially in today's world of mass distraction and hyper overwhelm and all the stuff that we have access to. You really have to have something that specifically was designed for you rather. So when you listen for the rest of this webinar, I don't want you to just be asking your mind if you know this or if you've heard this before. I want you to ask yourself, is it in your body? Do you embody this? Do you do these things? Because if it's not in your body, then just knowing it is actually dangerous. If your mind says, I already know this information, so I don't have to pay attention, then what it's going to do is probably look for new information. And what that does is it causes people to continually focus on surface level skills. If you're not getting what you want right now, then your brain will convince you that you need a different skill. You need a better skill, but it's not surface level skills that are going to give you mastery around your life and in the skills that you need to build your Mary Kay business. It's the deeper understanding of who you are and what you individually need. And like I said a moment ago, if this doesn't apply to you because you have achieved a lot of your goals and you generally achieve your goals, I can promise you that it applies to pretty much everybody on your team, because this applies to just about all humans on the planet. So here's the problem. The problem is that we all know what to do when it comes to success and when it comes to goal setting, but something stops us or something slows us down. And if you're not achieving what you want to achieve in your business and in your life, it's because you're not, at least right now, you're not able to implement the knowledge that you currently have. Because if you know what to do, but you're not doing it, then we don't have a knowledge problem. We have an implementation problem. assuming that the knowledge that you have is correct. And if you've been in Mary Kay for longer than about 48 hours, then you've gotten the training that you need at least to move the needle in your business. And I'm not trying to be demeaning in any way, because this is the way that pretty much all of us are living our lives. We know what to do, but for whatever reason, we're just not doing it. And so if we're not implementing the knowledge that we have, assuming that knowledge is correct, then different knowledge is not going to be the answer. In fact, more knowledge actually increases the frustration for most people, because now we have new information and we're still not able to implement and create the success that we're wanting in our lives. So let me tell you just a real short, or give you a real short glimpse of who I am. I'm a father and a husband. That's my wife, McKenna, or my wife, Sybil, my daughter, McKenna, my son, Exley, down there a few years ago in the Black Sands of Hawaii. On December 17th, when I was 13 years old in 1986, I was nearly killed in a hit and run accident, and it changed the way I looked at everything in life, changed the way I looked at my friends, changed the way I looked at my parents, changed the way I looked at goal setting. And I just I became determined to live a life of no regrets and live a life the best I possibly can, knowing that at any given moment, it can be taken away from us without warning. So it completely changed my path. But for the next 20 years, I still struggled tremendously until I had a major, major breakthrough. I finally learned about the brain, the mind, limiting beliefs, our internal conflicts. And I just was determined to help anybody that would listen learn the things that just fundamentally changed my life. And so I decided, everybody should feel this, because I had a shift in the way I feel, not just a knowledge increase. I had a shift in the way that I feel. I had a fundamental breakthrough. People were asking me what happened. They were asking me, why am I smiling so much? They were asking me what I'm on and how do they get it? And then a year later, I stumbled into the world of Mary Kay. In April of 2006, I did a training right here close to where I live now, and I'm still in the pink bubble, right? So we started the brand Pink Caddy Coach, and here we are. So I've been training and coaching in Mary Kay since 2006. I know the company. I know a lot about the journey. I know a lot about the mind of not just the entrepreneur, but the female entrepreneur. And that's what I want to share with all of you in this webinar as it pertains to goal getting. Now, let's talk about the world that we live in. The things that worked in 2015, 2010, 2000, before that, even a few years ago, don't necessarily work now, because our world has changed and you're in a people business. So if you're in a people business, then anything that changes people is relevant to you. And society has changed people. Society has changed our brain, because we are being bombarded constantly with hyper-aggressive messages, hyper-aggressive marketing, hyper-aggressive fear-mongering in the media, hyper-traumatization in all of our channels, in our inputs. It's just everywhere in society, and we're overwhelmed by all of this digital information, and we have this illusion of connection. We are more connected than ever digitally to information. We can find just about anything in a few seconds with a few taps on our screen of our smartphone, but we are less connected than ever to each other and to ourselves. So the human connection has suffered because of the digital connection, and our brains are literally operating differently than they used to. We have to understand this, because if we don't adapt to these changes, we simply can't win. Even with relatively elementary things like setting goals and going after our goals, a lot of us are frustrated as adults who've been in business for years and years and years. We understand these principles. We've been taught these things since we were kids. We get it, but we don't understand why we don't follow through. We don't understand why we can't make these things, which seem to be simple, a part of our lives, and ultimately why we can't succeed. So the reality is, if you don't change the recipe that's not working, you can't change the results you're not getting. If you don't change the recipe that's not working, you can't change the results. I think I said that you're not getting, but you can't change the results that you are getting into the results that you want, that you're not getting. So in this world, mindset trumps skill set. We live in a world of disruption. We live in a world of chaos. We live in a world of hyper distractions. So our minds need to be stronger and more rooted and more controllable than they've ever had to be in the past. You can have the world's best skills, but not be able to control your mindset, and your skills are basically useless because you can't keep yourself from being distracted. You can't keep yourself from, or you can't keep yourself focused on what it is that you really want to focus on. So your mindset is more important than ever. And in today's world, there's so much focus put on shortcuts and microwave approaches and guaranteed one size fits all. It never has worked. It never will work. You cannot ever shortcut your way to success, at least not true success that's sustainable. The people that shortcut their way to success very quickly lose everything they achieve if it's built on a foundation of shortcuts and microwave approaches. You've got to focus on growth, fulfillment, and joy in today's world, and then stack on top of that the things that are going to make your success a reality. You have to heal your relationship with three main fears: the fears of failure, the fears of rejection, and the fears of success. Those are the three main fears that stop almost everybody in Mary Kay specifically. If you don't heal those fears, then you're just not going to be able to create the foundation of success. And today's world, with the hyper distraction and all the things I'm talking about, makes those fears stronger than they ever have been. So we need to be more rooted in ourselves, in our humanity, in our transparency, in our vulnerability than we ever have been before. And if your unique humanity is not built into your business, in other words, you're not in the process, your enjoyment is not in the process, then it cannot be fulfilling, and you're going to resent any success that you create. So this is really about using Mary Kay to help you enjoy life, not succeeding in Mary Kay and hoping you enjoy life as a byproduct. Most people try to succeed in whatever venture they focus on, but they don't really make enjoying life a fundamental non-negotiable. And that's why so many people succeed, but they're not happy. Or because they're not happy in the process, they don't even get close to succeeding. And then there's just a lose-lose all the way around. So before I get to these 10 steps, I want to give you a high-level sort of conceptual umbrella about last year. 2019 is done. The way to detach from it is these 7 Re's. These are all R-E's. So this is your 2019 in review. It's in your review mirror, but most people stay attached to the past year, and that's why they can't succeed going forward. So the first thing, you got to release all of your judgment about everything in your past, especially everything negative. Your judgments will not help you succeed in the new year. You've got to reassess your effort from the past on your activities, not your results. Don't look at your goals and say, I didn't get my goals, therefore the year sucked. You got to take a look at your activities. And for the most part, I would say almost 100% of the time, if you didn't get your goals, it's because you didn't put forth the activity effort. So then at least we know what to change. And part of that is removing the emotion on anything that you didn't succeed at or any other emotional attachment from the past. We have to remove it and put it where it belongs. Most people have their emotion where it doesn't belong, and they don't have their emotion where it does belong. We need to attach emotionally in the areas that support us achieving our goals. Then we need to refocus on a new target. I'm going to dive into that in the future slides. We got to recreate our plan. We have to recommit to this plan with accountability. And then we have to remember all along the way to enjoy the journey. For almost all of you, myself included, you've got to focus on the process, not the product. You've got to focus on what you're doing, not just the results of what you're doing. Most people are focusing on results and recognition, but almost everybody needs to be focused on process and progress so that we feel better and we can continue on this journey. I want to show you this slide from one of our certification programs. One of the things that I do is help people understand how to do deep work transformational coaching. And we actually have certification programs for coaches. This comes directly out of one of those programs. This image is visually what's going on in the human brain. Now, I'm not going to teach you all these things. That's not the point of this image. I just want you to understand there is a lot of stuff happening. The brain does the three main things up at the top. The brain deletes information, it distorts information, and it generalizes information. And inside the brain is like this big pinball of all of these things going on with all the bits of information coming in. We've got language that we're accustomed to, language internally that's just bombarding our consciousness all the time. We've got memories from our past. We've got decisions that we've made, micro decisions and macro decisions about ourselves, about success, about life, about people, about money, about all the things that we've made decisions around. We've got meta programs, which is ways that our brains are programmed to operate at a deep, deep unconscious level. Most people are not aware of their own meta programs, and they're trying to succeed according to the wrong meta programs. We've got perceptions, different perspectives on the way that we see the world. We've got all of the experiences that we've had, literally billions and billions and billions of experiences. We've got micro traumas and macro traumas that we've all gone through. We've got drivers that determine what we're motivated to take action toward. We've got all these different identities, how we see ourselves in different situations. We've got values, all the things that are important to us. We've got the beliefs, the way that we see the world, other people, and ourselves. And all of that is influencing everything that comes into our awareness instantaneously, and then our behavior is a byproduct of all of that stuff. So if we as humans are so dynamic, then how can we search for static rules, absolute rules that work for all of us? We can't even find a set of rules that works for two of us, because we're all individual, let alone all of us. And yet most people are trying to follow static rules, and they get frustrated when the rules don't apply. Now, I don't know if somebody can tell, somebody wrote a couple things on the screen, which means you must have a touch screen and you drew some stuff. I don't have the ability to erase what you drew. The only thing I could do is remove you from the session, which I don't want to do. So if you touch the screen and made that little mark, see if you can erase it if you don't mind. It's not a huge deal. It's just a little line or two. But what's more important is understanding the laws of human behavior and then applying them to each one of us individually, rather than trying to put all of us into an assembly line approach according to the rules of human behavior. So what I'm going to give you are really laws that are going to apply at a conceptual level to each of us, but the details are going to be important for each one of you to apply to yourselves individually. So the first step is to get real. Nobody's going to go anywhere in life pretending that things aren't the way they are. You've got to assess last year honestly. You've got to take a look at where you are in your business without excusing or abusing yourself. Because wherever you are is exactly where you are. And if you don't fully embrace where you are, then you can't change anything. And most people are so frustrated by or ashamed of where they are that they never honestly acknowledge where they are. And if you're ashamed of where you are, but you never acknowledge it, you'll never change. You'll never get out of that shame. So even if it feels uncomfortable to say, this is exactly where I am, this is how many pounds overweight I am, this is how far behind my goals I am, this is where I am. If you don't acknowledge where you are inside the discomfort, you cannot change it. But most of us don't want to confront. Therefore, we walk around pretending things aren't the way that they are. And then we try to change when we haven't even embraced our control inside the acknowledgement of what is. So if you don't grab hold of what is, you can't do anything with it. So what did you achieve and what did you not achieve inside of Mary Kay and outside of Mary Kay? Be as neutral as you possibly can. This is not a time to pretend. It's not a time to get upset emotionally because you didn't do things. You just take a look. How many people did you recruit? How many sales did you make? How much time did you put in? How many warm chat attempts did you have? Just assess, what did you do and what did you not do? As soon as we have the true assessment, then we have a starting point. If we don't have a starting point, then we can't go to step number 2, which in this case is to create your vision. What is it that you want? This in itself is a huge, huge problem for a lot of people. If you don't have a target, how can you shoot at it? How can you aim at a target that doesn't exist? Now, I know intellectually we all understand that, but still a lot of people have massive resistance over claiming their vision for all kinds of reasons that are beyond the scope of this particular webinar. But you've got to identify what your vision is. What are your new targets? And if you didn't hit last year's goals, change something. Specifically in Mary Kay, change something. If you wanted to be a director, but you didn't make it to directorship, then my invitation to you is this year, don't make your goal directorship. Make your goal 35 team members. Like, make your goal something that would lead you to directorship. Or make your goal 40 team members, whether it's this year or over the next 3 years, whatever it is. Make your goal something that would command directorship status on the way to the goal. Because if you've already failed, rather, at achieving a certain goal, then when you try to motivate yourself to achieve that same goal again, it already has failure attached to it at an unconscious level for most of us. And we don't like the idea of signing up for a goal that we've already failed at, especially if we've failed at it over and over and over again. So change something, because your brain gets excited about new stuff. Your brain doesn't get excited about recycling old stuff. So I'm not saying you necessarily have to change what the essence of your goal is, but you can change the actual target that you're shooting at so that you give your brain a new experience. And when it comes to creating these visions, especially with a new goal that you've never failed at before, allow yourself to dream. Dream without restrictions. What a lot of people do is they involve their intellect in the dreaming phase, and your intellect doesn't have the ability to dream. Your intellect is essentially a computer. We've got to dream with our hearts, not with our minds, because our minds ask ourselves constantly, can we do this? What's the risk? What if we fail? Our minds create all of the reasons why we should not commit to something new. So we should not be asking our minds to come up with our visions about what's possible. The mind works on what's probable. The heart works on what's possible. So don't ask the mind, which is not only committed to what's probable, which can only be determined from the past, it's also committed to avoiding anything that's potentially painful or potentially risky. Don't give that thing the job of coming up with your dreams, because it will always restrict your dreams. So don't allow the restrictions of your intellect to suffocate the dreams of your heart. When it's time to create your visions, let your heart dream as big and as loud and as bold and as colorful as it possibly can. Then once you have the vision, now it's time to create the recipe. And the way you do it is work backwards. Start from what you want to experience in your life and what you want to accomplish in your business and work backwards. What's the step right before that goal? And what's the step right before that one? And what's the step right before that one? You got to work backwards all the way until now. And then once you have the recipe created backwards, now you'll know what the path looks like almost from an experiential standpoint. Now, you haven't actually experienced it, but you experienced it in the creation of it backwards. And so it actually gives your brain more excitement and more certainty around the path because you've built it backwards. So if it was built backwards, then we know where this is going to lead to. Most people don't work backwards like that, and they don't take their own personal circumstances into account. They just take somebody else's recipe and try to fit their own goals, or their own life rather, their own circumstances into somebody else's recipe. Your recipe has to be unique. And when you create the recipe, you're creating something that most likely will produce your goals. Most likely will produce your goals. There is no such thing as a guaranteed recipe, but you know why most people don't create their recipes, and more importantly, commit to their recipes? Because they're not guaranteed. So most people are succumbing to the demands of the intellect that says, I won't commit until I have something that's guaranteed. And that is literally in all ways impossible. So a lot of people are demanding the impossible before they commit to their goals. That's not the way building a business works. That's not the way dealing with people works. You're in a people business. Try to guarantee anything that involves people. The next thing that can be guaranteed with people's behavior will be the first thing that's ever been guaranteed with people's behavior. So once you have the recipe that's likely to produce your goals, now you've got to focus on habits for that recipe. Habits should be the whole thing that you're focusing on. What are the habits of success? Because habits will create the results. You cannot outperform your habits, nor can you underperform your habits. So whatever results you created in your life and or your business last year, I can promise you this: your recipe of habits is designed to produce those results, and it cannot produce more and it cannot produce less. So we've got to take our emotion off of the results that we want, and we've got to put our intention on the habits that will produce the results that we want. Now, creating habits is all about consistency. Consistency is more important than intensity. I would rather you make 2 phone calls for 10 days than 20 phone calls for 1 day and 9 days trying to build yourself back up, getting yourself motivated to make another round of 20 phone calls. By the time you get yourself motivated again, the momentum of those 20 phone calls is gone. It's almost like it didn't happen at all. So the 20 phone calls is virtually disintegrated. That's the way so many people approach their goals, especially their big goals that require motivation. They do some intense work when they're motivated, and then they allow all of that work to dissipate and disappear until they get motivated again. And then they do some intense work and let it all fall away, and do some intense work and let it all fall away. A year later, they actually haven't made any progress. They just keep taking intense steps and then letting them fall back to where they were. Intense steps, letting them fall back. Start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. The brain hates start, stop. It hates it. It's exhausting. It does not want to participate in that. So you've got to focus on consistent habits, and your habits command results. When you follow the habits of the right recipe, the results are imminent. The results are imminent because that they are coming from the habits. And those habits will create these results. They always will. And they won't create anything more or anything less. So habits can only be created with repetition. It's impossible to create a habit in a moment. So if you made habits your word for the year, your focus for the year, your assessment tool for the year, meaning assess yourself on the habits you're creating, not on the results that are beyond your control, I guarantee you this year will be better than any other year that you've employed the start, stop, intense, fall down, exhausting strategy. Now, once you have the recipe and it's based on habits, that's the new goal. That is the new target. So your target is no longer recruiting 5 people a month. Your target is the habits that should produce 5 recruits every month. Now, as you continue following your habits, if it's not producing the results that you want it to produce after a few months, you can change the habit. You can make an adjustment. You can adjust them up or adjust them down. If you're producing way too much success, you might want to adjust them down. But for the most part, if you give yourself several months of a habit, you'll know what those habits produce. A habit cannot produce anything in a single day that's consistent or predictable. But give yourself several months, and now you'll have a predictable result being produced by that habit. And if that habit is not producing the results that you want, then you can adjust, then you can increase, or you can shift a little bit. But following the habit is the new goal. Following the habit, following the recipe is the new focus. You've got to make the separation between results and recipe. There's about maybe 1 to 2% of the people on this planet that can focus on results, and they just stay committed until they knock out those results. 98 to 99% of us, myself included, cannot do that. But almost all of us think we're supposed to operate that way because all those other people do. We've got to focus on recipe. We've got to focus on habits. We've got to focus on process. We've got to focus on progress. We've got to focus on the things that we can control in order for us to keep going. That's just the way that almost all of us are. And when we are committed to our habits and our recipes, understand your recipes don't care about how bad you want it. If you follow a certain recipe that will produce a certain result, but you want a better result, you can want the better result all you want. The recipe doesn't care. The recipe will produce whatever result the recipe is designed to produce. You can follow a meatloaf recipe and really, really want a chocolate cake to come out of the oven. That meatloaf recipe doesn't care. If you follow the recipe, it will always produce a meatloaf. So that's one of the areas where we have to remove our emotion around what we really want or what we deserve or how long we've been at it. It's the recipe that will determine the results. Simple. If you're not a director, you don't have director habits. If you're not a national, you don't have national habits. If you're not a red jacket, you don't have red jacket habits. If you're not in whatever goal category you want, if you haven't achieved $20,000 in sales, you don't have $20,000 sales habits. If you don't have the results, you don't have the habits. It's just that simple. And when you head out into the commitment toward this new target, I want you to pre-forgive yourself for everything. You will fail. You will be rejected. You will make mistakes. There will be shortcomings. You will do all kinds of things that your intellect does not want you to do. Pre-forgive yourself for all of them. So when you experience them, you'll remind yourself, oh yeah, I've already been forgiven for those things. And let's not pretend that they won't happen to you. They all lie ahead of you. It's all the things that most people are trying to avoid that are requirements for success. Pre-forgive yourself for all of it. Number 5, continue your neuro-learning, neurological learning, the things that will continue growing and expanding and strengthening your brain. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of mindlessness. It's easy to just binge watch whatever it is that's on Netflix or Amazon TV or whatever the latest app is. It's easy to fall into passing time. These platforms are spending billions of dollars getting us addicted to their platforms. It's in their business model, and they're designed to addict the human brain. We have to make sure that we don't allow that to happen. So we have to continually swim against the stream of our societal programming, because if we don't, the brain becomes a reactor. When you are in reaction mode, your brain is in a place where it literally cannot avoid the temptations. It cannot avoid the distractions because it's in a certain mode. We need to make sure it doesn't get into that mode, because once it's in that mode, it's almost impossible to change it in the course of a day without a major disruption in your day. So we've got to protect our brain mode and intentionally program it against the grain so that it's growing in its strength and its roots. We've got to read. We've got to listen to positive audios, videos. We've got to be in support groups, in support scenarios. If we don't, our brain, it's like quicksand. Society's quicksand will suck our brain into its programming, and we'll get addicted, like so many people are, addicted to distractions, addicted to temptations, addicted to the illusion of connection. We can't allow that. Number 6, we have to move our body to support our brain, to support all of these visions. Exercise is critical. That's one of the ways that we get ourselves into creation mode rather than reaction mode. Creation is an energy, and one of the best ways we can create energy is with our body. It's tough enough to build a business dealing with all the things that we have to deal with humans and changes in technology and just all the stuff that we have to deal with. It's tough enough. It's almost impossible if you're fighting against your own body. I want your body to support you in achieving your goals. I don't want your body to be one of the things that you have to overcome energetically and then try to build a business. That is almost impossible. So you've got to generate healthy vibrations throughout your body, throughout your mind. Exercise. Do the things that you all know how to do. You don't have to go to the gym and knock yourself out for 2 hours every day or anything like that. But just exercise. Move your body 10, 15 minutes a day. Stretch. Stretching is just as important as the exercise. And there's not a study that I've ever seen that says exercise doesn't work. So all the studies say it helps our bodies feel good. It helps our mind. It helps release endorphins. It helps all the things that we need in order to set ourselves up to succeed. So do not sacrifice your exercise. What's the point in building a business that succeeds if you sacrifice the function of your body or the enjoyment and experience of your body? Number 7, monitor your patterns. We have patterns for everything. We have behavior patterns, we have thought patterns, we have patterns for the moods that we're in, we have patterns for our emotions. And inside these patterns are essentially recipes for success, recipes for depression, recipes for frustration, recipes for quitting, recipes for recovering from failure. This is about knowing you. Most people put way too much energy on learning about behavior rules rather than learning about the behavior rules and recipes, the behavior, the individual person, you. The more that you know you, the more that you can control your behaviors. If you don't know you, if you don't know what tends to work for you in certain scenarios, then how are you going to set yourself up to succeed in other scenarios, especially when those scenarios involve things that are uncomfortable? You have to know yourself. Your patterns determine your motivation. Your patterns determine the decisions that you make. And in order for us to stop the patterns that we currently have that are not supporting us, it requires disruption of the things that are comfortable. It requires disruption in ways that most people don't want to experience. Most people are trying to avoid the very things that are required to build new habits. In that conversation, number 8, you've got to become a master quitter. When you identify a pattern that doesn't work for you, you have to quit it. Now, I'm not saying quit on your goals, of course, but you've got to quit everything that's not aligned with your goals. Quitting is a hidden superpower of successful people. But most people think that we're not supposed to be good quitters because quitters never win and winners never quit. That is complete BS. The most successful people are master quitters. It's just that they know what to quit. And as soon as you realize something is not serving you, a relationship, an environment, a belief, the next question, the only one that makes sense, is how quickly can I quit this? If it's not going to serve you, then why would you want to continue it? And when you quit certain things, you're basically drawing a line in the sand. You're telling yourself that you will no longer tolerate this. You're setting new boundaries. You're telling yourself that you're committed and you're convicted in whatever it is that you want to make a change in. But if you don't create any disruption, your brain doesn't think you're all that serious about anything. Your brain thinks you're just interested in making comfortable, small moves. And you're not going to fundamentally change anything in your life by making comfortable shifts. If you want a fundamental change in your life, we need to change all the foundational patterns that led to the scenarios and situations that you want to stop. So you have to become a master quitter. Part of being a master quitter is listening to your word. So number 9 is to stay in integrity with your word. It's one of the top habits for growth beyond your comfort zone. When we break our promises to ourselves or to other people, and any promise that we break to other people is really a promise that we've broken to ourselves. When we break our promises to ourselves, we stop trusting ourselves. And if we don't trust ourselves with our own word, what do we have left? And one of the things that happens is people get really irritated about other people breaking promises, other people saying they're going to do something and then they don't do it. But we don't look at ourselves and see how much we're in integrity with our own promises. So commit to only the things that you know you can control and that you will take action toward. Don't make all these false commitments. If you falsely commit to a goal just because you want approval from somebody else, or you don't want to be seen as weak by somebody else, falsely committing to a goal that you know you're not actually going to commit to is way worse internally. It does way more damage to your self-esteem. It does way more damage to your self-confidence, to your self-trust. It does way more damage internally than if you just say, you know what, I'm not interested in that goal. And when you say that, you're creating a boundary and you're telling yourself, I don't want to commit to something that I'm not fully actually committed to, but I will commit to these things. So I would rather you decommit to several things that are not going to increase your experience of life and recommit to a few things that will change everything in your life. And finally, number 10, get support. Don't try to be the first person in human history to achieve your dreams on your own. It never has happened because you cannot see your own blind spots. You cannot untie the knots that you tied yourself without a new perspective. The most support you need is in building new tracks. When you decide to change your life, that's as if you're operating on a certain set of tracks and you decide that you're going to jump to another set of tracks. But that's not where you need the most amount of support, making the decision to jump to a new set of tracks. Where we all need the majority of our support is once we've jumped to those new sets, to that new set of tracks, making that a habit, staying on those tracks. That's where it gets tough. We can use our motivation to jump to a new set of tracks. We cannot use our motivation individually to keep ourselves on the new set of tracks. That's one of the biggest mistakes that most people make. They think that the motivation that causes them to decide to change their life will be the motivation that causes them to continue staying committed to changing their life. It's the continuation of the commitment that all the work that's where all the work that actually needs to be done is done. It's the continuation. It's not the initial decision. That's where you need the majority of your support. You've got to have masterminds. You've got to have mentors. You've got to have accountability groups. You've got to have group support. You've got to have private coaching. You've got to put yourself in environments that will not allow you to stay misaligned, that have the courage to call you when they see that you are out of alignment, because you cannot see your own blind spots. We cannot notice when we're slowly making the shift off of those tracks. We don't notice those shifts, but other people can. A lot of people don't want to get support like this because they're embarrassed. They don't want other people to see what's really going on in their life. But just like I said toward the beginning, if you don't acknowledge what's real and you don't get support around what's really happening in your life, nothing can change. And your transformation will never be found in more information. That's the intellect. Your transformation can only be found in better support. So hopefully these 10 ways have landed with you, or these 10 steps rather, have really landed with you on what it takes to create a fundamental shift in your reality. I just want to share a few stories from a couple of our clients in the past. Debbie says, after our initial consultation, once we identified what her unique game plan is with her name at the top and we worked backwards, she said she booked 10 classes. She had a facial that day and sold over $200 in 30 minutes. She says her focus had never been clearer. That's because we did the personalized work on her game plan. Kathy is a director, had many directors underneath her. She said, in the past month, I started to come to a place of peace and contentment. I had put so much importance and attachment to my position, my unit members' goals, my goals. So I lived in a constant state of stress and dissatisfaction. That is not why anybody should be in Mary Kay, to increase stress and dissatisfaction. That is not why Mary Kay Ash created this company, I guarantee you that. But that's the experience of a lot of people. That's not a Mary Kay problem at all. That's a problem in the way that you are in your business, or the way that you are focused in your mind. If you're creating stress, frustration, dissatisfaction, it's because we have misalignment. So Kathy said, instead of enjoying my journey, I was so focused on where I thought I had to go, who I thought I had to be, all the goals that she thought that she needed to achieve, and there was no enjoyment in where I was. So what's the point in succeeding in a business with no enjoyment? And she says, if I was feeling that way, how do you think all my unit members felt? How do you think all my directors felt? It had been years since I was excited about my business. But now she says, I'm so excited about my business, and I have a new attachment to today. With her specifically, we had to remove the personal attachment to her accomplishments. Her value as a person was attached to her performance. That is one of the most dangerous connections that we can have from a joy standpoint, from a self-esteem standpoint. So once we were able to remove that connection for her, everything changed in her life. And she started to not only enjoy her business more, but she started to succeed more also. So if this is landing with you and you want to implement this instead of just understand some of this, then we're starting a goal-getting mastery class just for Mary Kay. It's going to be a 4-part live webinar training series where we essentially walk you through the implementation of everything I've talked about so that you can get the mental, emotional, and embodied mastery around goal getting, not just goal setting, goal getting. What's the point of setting goals if we're not getting the goals? We're going to help you stay connected to your highest visions in Mary Kay and in your life in general. We're going to help you create these personalized, customized game plans for success. We're going to help you achieve your most important goals. We're going to help you craft your vision. We're going to help you uncover your purpose and mission declarations, not just statements, but declarations that have some energy to it, things that get you up in the morning, things that keep you going, when times get tough. We're going to help you create the right goal posters for your motivation. We're going to help you with your tracking and all the accountability that's necessary to keep you on this new set of tracks. We're going to help you with productivity and time management skills. That's an area that so many people really struggle with. Help you with creating daily routines to fuel your individual fire. Don't try to take somebody else's routine and think that it's going to fuel your fire. We're going to help you with positive affirmation techniques. A lot of people have affirmations that are not working because they're not doing it right. We're going to help you with your unique motivation strategies and action strategies. It's going to be a 4-part live webinar trainings. There's going to be Q&A, so we make sure that you can implement all of this stuff. You're going to have access to all the recordings, so you'll be able to download, you'll be able to listen forever. This is not a 4-part series. This is a rest of your life series. The things that we're going to teach you, I'm going to want you to employ forever as you go forward. And this is what I get most excited about. I want you to teach this to your team members. I want you to teach this to your kids. I want you to teach this to your friends. I want the ripple effect to expand well beyond just you. So this is not just an individual collision of information with you. This is hopefully something that you embody going forward, and it literally changes your life going forward when it comes to the goals that you set and the accomplishments that you commit to. Everything is on this page, the URL that you can see there, pinkcaddycoach.com/goal-getting-2020. It's all Mary Kay specific. You get handouts. We've done tons and tons of online programs. I've been a teacher my whole life, and we know what works to help people implement information that they learn. So we're going to set you up with everything that supports human learning. Handouts, support community, all the archives, all the Q&A sessions, everything that's really focused on one thing and one thing only. It's the only thing that will change any results in your life: implementation. The goal is implementation, and embodied implementation, not just intellectual, embodied implementation. And as a result of that, complete transformation. We start the live program January 15th, and the investment is $20. So think about a $20 investment. What if this goal setting course allowed you to achieve just one goal that you hadn't gotten before, or it allowed you to make one more sale? I mean, it's almost impossible. It would be tough to make a sale in Mary Kay with passion and excitement and have it be less than $20. I mean, you would almost have to intentionally make sure that they don't want something more than $20 when you're on fire. So imagine what happens. You invest $20 and you implement this into your life. What's the ripple effect going to be financially? And if I can't help you make $20 back on your investment when we're together for 4 live webinars, then I expect you to ask for your money back, and we will gladly refund anybody that doesn't think they get their investment back. So it's a $20 investment to join. You go to that URL, pinkcaddycoach.com, goal setting, or goal getting rather, 2020. Without mastery, you guys, without mastery, we will always struggle. Notice this is not called a master class. It's called a mastery class intentionally, because we need to master ourselves. We need to master our emotions. We need to master our motivations. We need to master our focus. This is about mastery. If you're going to combat all of the societal program that's pulling us away from ourselves and onto our phone or into the collective digital world, you will always be lost if you can't combat all of the pull from society. So this is about mastering yourself, understanding yourself so that you can take that information, the embodied information of transformation, and apply it to your business, apply it to your relationships, apply it to your health, apply it to your friendships, apply it in every area of your life, because every area involves goals. And if you don't know how to achieve your goals in one area, How can you achieve the goals in the other area? Goal getting is about you. It's not about the rules and the skills. It's about you. What works for you? So I want to ignite you. I want to ignite you in Mary Kay. I want to ignite you in every other area of your life that's important by teaching you how to embody these principles of achievement, fueled by joy, fueled by excitement, fueled by true passion, and not having to change a single thing about yourself. A lot of people believe in order to get their goals, they must change first. I believe, I'll say I know after all these years in personal development, the only way to get your goals and enjoy them and have them last is for you to remain yourself, not change into anybody else. But if you try to put somebody else's recipe into your unique oven, it will only work never, ever, ever. So this is about personal mastery. If we don't have personal mastery, then we will always struggle, because true knowledge does not live in the head that we use to chase all the information all around. True knowledge, true mastery, true enjoyment of life lives in our body, and it speaks through our energy. It lives inside of our bodies, and it speaks through our energies. When we do the inside out work and we understand ourselves, then we can adopt the skills. Then we can use the scripts. Then we can do the things that we all know how to do, but they will be fueled from a place of authentic drive, authentic passion, authentic purpose. Without that, the only option is going to be for you to resent your business. Whether you succeed or fail doesn't matter. It's going to lead to resentment. So as with everything, I end just about every one of my webinars with this, because this concept is so critical and so near and dear to my heart. We really have two choices. We can either cope with all the things that we don't enjoy, cope with our sabotaging mechanisms, our fears, or we can clear them away. Because when we do this internal work, the sabotage either goes away or it dissipates to the point that we can control it. But if we don't do this work, all we can do for the rest of our lives is try to cope with the sabotaging mechanisms. If you commit to clearing everything that's in your way, internally and externally, and adopting control over the things that you can control, your life fundamentally changes forever. For the rest of your existence on this planet, you can be in a different position of control. You can be in a different position of accomplishment. You can be in a different position of enjoyment, and you can be in a different experience of joy. So I hope this has landed well for you. For those of you that are going to join us in the program, I'm going to back one slide here. For those of you that are going to join us in the program, go to pinkcattycoach.com/goalgetting2020. We'll put that link in the comment section so that you can just click on it and go straight there. If you have any problems whatsoever registering or getting to the page, then let us know and we'll support you in that. I hope you join us. I hope you learn some of these strategies that can change the way that you see goal setting, can heal your relationship to goal setting if you have anything unhealthy in your relationship to goal setting, and it can help you change the lives of your team members. Anybody that you teach this to, anybody you have influence over, it will help them as well. And I promise you this, after 20 plus years in this personal development world, working on myself, and then after a few years of that, teaching it to all the people that would listen. Success is about inside out. Anybody that's searching for and anybody that's teaching microwave approaches, how can I quickly get from here to there without doing the work that demands the growth, without doing the work that will allow me to grow beyond our comfort zone, beyond my personal comfort zone, and get to the place where I'm no longer demanding my results, but my habits are commanding my results. I can't adequately articulate what that shift is like when you make it in your life. The intellect just doesn't even understand what it's like to be more present and to be more joyful. And the things that you can experience when you do this work are unfathomable to the intellect where it stands right now. So hopefully this is exciting to you. If you're not going to join us in the class, and I wish you the best, however you're going to implement this information or any other information that you get, if you are going to join us in the class, you're in for one hell of a ride. We're going to go deep. We're going to implement everything we possibly can. We're going to help you individually as well as in a group. And my intention is that every single person in this course fundamentally shifts their experience in Mary Kay and their experience on this planet. I haven't looked at any of the comments here. Let me take a peek at the comments. In order to do that, I have to stop sharing my slides. Whew, I was rolling. I didn't take a drink. I barely took a breath. Jenny Lynn, yes, no brainer, I'm in. Awesome. Best webinar I've heard from Sean. Good. I'm glad it landed with you. Goal getting 2020. It's everything. It's everything. Cool. Somebody says $20 per session. No, $20 for the whole thing. $20 for the whole 4-part series. It's only $20. Now, some of you might think, oh, he's just making it $20 to try to get everybody to join. Yes, 100% true. This is the information that shifted everything in my life. I've used it to not just make millions of dollars. I don't really care about that. That's one of the reasons why I don't have a problem sharing the amount of money that we've made. But the amount of mistakes that we made inside of all that money, I'm happy to share all that stuff too. But the real effect of this work on me personally is not about the money that we've generated or the success that we've had in business or any of that sort of stuff. It's really about the connection that I have to myself, the connection that I have to my family, the connection that I have to this gift called life. I have a connection that I never knew even existed way back when. So that's the ultimate outcome here when you do this kind of work, and it really has you in the middle of it, and you understand yourself and you're connected to yourself. It's only everything. So if you have any questions, please email me or tag me on social media, however you can get a hold of me. Again, I hope this has been valuable. I can't wait to support those of you that are going to join the program. And regardless of whether you're in or not, here's to an amazing new year of growth, success, and joy. With that, take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the course, hopefully.